Have you stacked too much silver and gold? Many popular financial figures for the past several decades would say that contributing 10 to 15% of your investments into the precious metals is a good amount. But whenever we take a look at the average stacker, I think our numbers are a bit higher than that. So that begs the question, have we stacked too much weight? Are we overweight in the precious metals? And would we benefit more by moving our stacking budgets towards other investments? So without further ado, let's talk about how much silver and gold we should be stacking and why stacking crappy fiat inflationary currency is actually important in hitting our stacking goals long term. Let's get into it. If you guys enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe as we push hard for 7,000 subs. By the way, everybody, I'm going to be going live on Booty Girl Stacking's channel on November 13th at 6 p.m. over on Booty Girl Stacking's channel. We like to live stream at least once a month, so head on over to Booty Girl Stacking's channel, subscribe to her, and stay tuned for that 6 p.m. live stream on Thursday, November 13th. Towards the end of this video, I'll talk about the importance of having a decent amount of fiat stacked up despite how much we love building up our silver and gold weight. But first, let's talk about how much silver and gold we should be stacking. And in most YouTube videos that cover this topic, they'll tell you there isn't any right reason. It's going to be different for everybody, which is true, but I would like to get closer towards a real number that we can all determine. I received a comment on one of my videos several months ago. I couldn't find the comment, but I still remember it to this day. And what the commenter said was that they don't have any specific number. There's not a certain amount of weight that they're looking to attain. And that's not how they set their goals as a stacker. Rather, instead, they add up every single one of their emergency expenses. They have a whole list of how much any given emergency expense might cost. Maybe there's a medical emergency, how much is their deductible? They write that down. If a transmission goes out in a vehicle, they write the cost of that down. If they need a new set of tires, if they were out of a job for 2 months, if their air conditioner went out. They add up all of these potential costs and translate that number into silver and gold weight. And that's kind of how they determine how much they'll need at any given time. And I read that comment and I thought it was very practical and extremely useful. Because whenever we add up all of those costs, the number ends up being pretty high. It takes quite a bit of metals to satisfy those numbers. If you take everything that could possibly ever go wrong and add up the potential cost for all of that, that lays out a decent amount of work for you as a stacker. It creates a baseline number of ounces that we as stackers should work towards. And speaking of working towards our stacking goals, let's take a moment to talk about today's video sponsor. PIMBEX is an online metals dealer that was so kind to reach out and support the channel. They have competitive low prices and secure shipping, so if you'd like to support the 49's Fine YouTube channel and pick up metals at competitive low prices, check out PIMBEX.com and let them know that 49's sent you. So once we have these numbers set and we know exactly how much we need, I think it's important to take into account the volatility of precious metals, especially with silver. Because if you calculate the amount of ounces you'll need at $50 spot, if silver were to ever drop down below that, you'd have a little bit of a deficit in regards to how many ounces you currently have. So what I'm going to do moving forward into the future is I'm going to take a look at the yearly low of silver and gold. And I'm going to base my number of ounces off of that. If I have a $500 expense, that doesn't mean that I need 10 ounces of silver. Rather, I'll calculate it at silver being worth $30 an ounce just to protect myself if spot did happen to drop down and I needed to sell it to cover that $500 expense. So instead of 10 ounces of silver at $50 spot, I'll stack 17 ounces instead. That gives me a buffer zone. So if silver drops from 50 down to 45, or maybe even down to 40 or 35, I know I'll have enough silver to cover that $500 expense. It gives me a buffer zone, and it also gives me an excuse to stack even more silver and gold. I don't want my potential expenses to totally wipe me out in the event that spot price were to drop at the same time. And in regards to life in general, when it rains, it pours. So if one thing goes wrong, there's probably several other things that are going to go wrong at the same time. When life has an opportunity to slow you down, it seems like it likes to take every opportunity that it has to keep you down. But stackers wholeheartedly understand this, and that's why we have so many precious metals. And that's also why I think a 10 to 15% allocation is probably a bit low. Because when you take the potential costs that could arise in the future that can and probably will happen, and you compound that with your goal to preserve your wealth and grow your net worth over time, strictly with precious metals, it's gonna be more than 15%. It's probably gonna be more than 25 or 30% of your total investment allocation. But I read that comment and I thought, wow, there is so much utility in that. It makes so much sense. And it also makes stacking even more rewarding because you can write down each and every one of these expenses and then right next to that how much silver you would need to cover that specific expense. And that gives you kind of a list of goals to hit, and you can start from smallest to biggest. The same way we pay off debt, we start with the smallest debt first and work our way up. We can apply that same snowball method to stacking precious metals as a means to cover emergency expenses. I learn a lot from you guys in the comments. Most of you know more about this stuff than I do, and I'm just honored that you guys watch each and every video and say hi several times a week. So now that we have our numbers laid out, we know what we need at baseline, at minimum, let's talk a little bit about fiat currency, inflationary, crappy, toilet paper, imaginary monopoly money, and why it's very important to your success as a long-term stacker to stack a decent amount of it. That's what I do. I've got a decent amount of fiat stacked up compared to how much I have in silver and gold, and as much as I hate it, as much as I know that it's going to lose value over time, I still think it's necessary to have. And I hate to admit it, but at this point in my stacking journey, I've only been stacking for about a year and a half, I focus on stacking fiat just about as hard as I focus on stacking precious metals. And the reason for that is in the early stages of stacking, you don't want to be in a position where you have absolutely all of your money in the metals and then something comes up and you have to immediately pay for it in the short term. You don't want to be in a position where you paid spot plus premium, and then you have to turn around and sell that silver and gold and lose out on the money you spent on the premium and lose out on the buy to sell spread. You want to be able to hold your metals for a significant amount of time so that they can appreciate in value past the point of inflation to cover these potential expenses. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is if you have a fiat buffer zone. You need a buffer for your buffer. The way I look at it is my fiat covers my silver and gold. My silver protects my gold, and my gold protects me. I kind of have a multi-layered defense. That's kind of how I look at it. At this point in time, I'm nowhere near my stacking goals. I'm nowhere near my stacking goals for silver, and I'm nowhere near my stacking goals for gold. So I don't want to be caught in the position where I had to use those metals right now to cover that emergency expense. Some of the silver that I bought in the mid 40 range, and a lot of the gold that I bought at the $3,500 and $3,900 price range, so I don't want to be in a position where I would have to turn around and liquidate those metals towards an emergency expense. I would much rather use my fiat currency in the meantime. But after 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 years, my metals are very likely to be worth much more than what I paid for them. So in 10 years, if any significant emergency comes up, I won't feel nearly as bad, and I won't be taking a loss, most likely, using my metals to cover that expense. So fiat does play a role here, and you can put your fiat currency in a high interest savings account that can help combat inflation. You can commonly find a 3% or 3.5% high interest savings account, and that can help protect the value a little bit over time. Ultimately, would I love to just pile it all into metals? Yes, but Like I said, I don't want to be in a position where I have 100% exposure in metals and 0% exposure in fiat currency, and then a $5,000 or $6,000 expense pop up and then turn around and have to liquidate a significant amount of my precious metals that I want to hold for a long time. Not financial advice, but that's a little bit of the Achilles heel when it comes to silver and gold for the majority of the time, is that yes, it's extremely low risk. Yes, it is true intrinsic value that you can hold tangibly in your hand, but it does take a little while whenever you start stacking for it to pick up steam and for it to build its own strength. It takes time in the market for our precious metals to benefit us as a savings method. But anyways, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. Stay safe out there. Keep stacking. Peace.